The investigation so far has confirmed, that this case needed to be reopened.
Tonight, authorities have reopened the investigation into a child's death almost 15 years ago, looking for justice for Jeffrey. Jeffrey Kelton Skaggs was just 15 months old when he died under mysterious circumstances. But the district attorney at the time closed the case without an investigation. Now there's a new DA and new interest in figuring out exactly what happened. Our chief investigative reporter, Phil Williams, is here. You've been following this case, Phil, for a long time. Right?
Yeah, and this is one of those cases that really sticks with you. Our investigation first raised questions about Jeffrey's death almost 10 years ago. Now the new DA is preparing to ask a judge for permission to exhume the child's body to conduct a new autopsy.
This child almost screams from its grave for justice.
Here in rural Hickman County lies Jeffrey Kelton Skaggs, along with what investigators have long believed could be evidence of a crime. The 15-month-old boy died under mysterious circumstances back in 2001. It was a case that haunted a former director of the TBI.
We felt it was never fully investigated.
And a former state medical examiner.
We had injuries that didn't match the stories, the multiple stories provided, the stories that changed over time.
But longtime DA Mike Bottoms had blocked efforts back then to exhume the child's body. So what about this little boy? What if you're wrong, sir?
I'm not going to judge his decision back then, but I feel like, the case certainly needed to be looked into further.
Now the district has a new DA, and Brent Cooper says after meeting with retired TBI Director Larry Wallace and after watching our News Channel 5 investigation, he decided he needed to take a new look at the case.
The more we looked at it, the deeper we got into it, the more we realized this is a homicide investigation, and that's what needs to be conducted.
All right, 911, where's your emergency?
As our investigation first revealed, the child lived here inside this trailer in Maury County with his mother and her boyfriend. The family claimed Jeffrey rolled off the bed and hit his head. Rushed to Maury Regional Hospital, barely clinging to life, the little boy was quickly flown to a hospital in Huntsville. That's where he died. The doctor who treated him was suspicious.
The thing that bothered me about this was the height of the fall that was reported to me was not sufficient to result in this magnitude of a head injury.
We have a skull fracture, and the skull fracture is very suspicious by its location and by how large it was. It extended from the top of the head all the way to the bottom of the head.
That's why I, as the pathologist.
Dr. Charles Harlan, a longtime medical examiner who ended up having his license revoked for incompetence, performed an autopsy. He ruled it an accident. But when experts from Tennessee's medical board looked at Jeffrey's case, they came to another conclusion.
The child's actual manner of death was a result of non-accidental trauma.
Meaning?
Meaning that in the judgment of the authors of this article, it was a homicide.
Murder.
It was murder.
Do you believe this was murder?
I believe it was definitely not accidental.
The DA says his experts who looked at Jeffrey's case confirmed what our experts told us years ago.
We've had at least three independent experts review those records.
And they tell you what?
And they say that the autopsy was not, it was not a good autopsy, and that it was an incomplete autopsy.
In fact, News Channel 5 investigates obtained this photo showing that Jeffrey's right leg was in a cast at the time of his death, a detail that Dr. Harlan had completely ignored.
He never bothered to even look at that leg fracture. He didn't do any sort of skeletal survey. He didn't x-ray the body.
I came away totally convinced that the proper thing to do in this case was to exhume this child's body and perform a second autopsy.
But Jeffrey's family opposed such an effort a decade ago, and without the DA's approval. So what about this little boy? What if you're wrong, sir? A judge said he could not legally approve the state's request.
The fatal blow is rarely the only injury this child has suffered. Usually by the time they get to the point where they kill a child, normally they've been hurting that child before then.
But the new DA says he believes that exhuming the young boy's body is the only way to get justice for Jeffrey.
I'm just the type of person that I just don't believe in letting someone just walk away from a crime if I believe they committed a crime.
Now, Jeffrey's family has repeatedly denied that they had anything to do, did anything to cause the child's death. And the DA says because it's once again an open investigation, he can't say whether he suspects someone in the home or possibly someone else. He says he'll follow the facts story wherever they lead.
And I know you'll be watching.
Absolutely.
All right, Phil, thanks so much. If you might have any information on this case, General Cooper wants to hear from you. You can call the DA's office. Here's the number, 931-380-2536. We'll also put that number on our website.